Good afternoon.
Yeah,
This
good
is Jamal
afternoon and
Hassan
good morning.
from the Voice Studio in Washington, D.C., USA. Welcome to Jamal Hassan Show. The voice is your voice. Today, I am going to introduce former diplomat from India, Mr. Prasad Nalapati. Prasad Nalapati joined Indian Civil Service in 1983 and served in the Indian Foreign Service. He was posted to several diplomatic missions abroad. During this period, including the countries he served were Israel, Palestine Authority, Russia, United States, etc. In the academics, he has an MSc degree in psychology and an MA degree in ancient Indian history and civilization. Prasad Nalapati founded the non-profit organization Nalapati Foundation for Human Development for Community Service. Prasad Nalapati currently is the president of Deccan Council for Strategic Initiative. It is a Hyderabad-based think tank which publishes articles and reports on India's neighboring countries and international developments that have a bearing on India. Internally, the council's focus is on politics and economic reforms. Mr. Nalapati served in the government of India for over 33 years and retired as additional secretary. Welcome, Mr. Nalapati, to our show.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you for that introduction.
So, you are a diplomat. You had an exciting career, I understand. So, I would tell the audience that I had a chance to meet you in Washington, D.C., probably back in 2012.
Yeah, it's around 2012. That's correct.
During the time you were minister counselor at the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Is it so?
That's correct. Yes.
And I think you met Bangladesh ambassador Akramul Kader, Didan ambassador,
Yes. Yes.
also
Right.
in DC.
Yes.
So, and you also met Dr. Zudi Jasser. You know, Dr. Zudi Jasser recently he contested as a senator in Arizona.
Yes, I heard that. I saw that in the media. Yes.
He's a Republican and he
Mm.
has been activist for long. And
Yeah.
tell him we know him as a voice against jihadi radical Islam. You know,
Yes.
he,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
he's a reformist.
Yeah.
So, um, uh, what is the basically your interaction with Dr. Zudi Jasser? Actually, remember if you go, that Zudi Jasser basically initiated a congressional hearing on
Yeah.
combating radical Islam, especially the topic was radicalization of American Muslim youth. It
Yeah.
was basically, you know that was initiated also by Congressman Peter King from New York. Are you aware of that?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes. So Zuti Jasser has a track record in fighting jihadism, and I'm sure he's a Syrian American.
Yes. Mm.
His parentage lineage goes to Syria, and
Yeah.
uh, and he was also a physician at U.S. Navy.
Yes.
So he
Yes. Yeah.
served U.S. Navy. So anyway, so your interaction with Dr. Zudi Jasser and Mr. Akramul Kader, and those are in Washington D.C. How long you were posted in D.C.? Uh,
It's 3 years from 2011 to 2014.
mhm,
So during this time, of course, we have a variety of intellectuals that we had a chance to meet, both American and foreign diplomats. So of course, you is one of a highly intellectual person who I was aware of his activism, particularly against Islamist radicalism.
mhm,
Particularly, that was a hot topic at that point of time, coming out of
mhm,
9/11 and then attacks on Bombay.
mhm,
So it was a hot topic, and so we had a chance to exchange notes. and it was he visited my house also. Of course, you were there, and
So that is a picture.
Bangladesh.
Actually, Dastagir Jahangir might show it at some time, my friend.
Yeah,
Oh, the picture. This was taken at your house.
that's correct. Yes.
It's in Bethesda or
No, it was Maryland in Potomac.
Potomac,
Uh,
Maryland. Okay, and who were
yeah,
in the
yeah.
picture? I think Mr. Akramul Kader is beside you, and on the
Yeah, he's
far
next
right,
to me, and Judy is on the last.
Dr.
And
Zulfi Asgar. Right, right, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, oh, that picture was historical picture was taken at your residence in Potomac. I
Oh,
see.
I'm glad that you you could trace it out.
Yes, yes.
I
So
may
that
have
at
it,
least
but
people know that Mr. Nalapati knew people, and
yeah.
also you had a connection with Bangladesh, mission abroad. So
Oh,
anyway,
yes, of course, yes.
so anyway, you were telling me that, and also in your bio, I can see that you are posted in Palestinian territory in Israel. How many years and which year you were
That
posted?
was 4 years, from 94 to 98. Normally, the tenure is for 3 years,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
since the Palestinian Authority was formed at that point of time, I had to stay a year more and to start dealing with Palestinian Authority. So we had a chance to deal with both sides of the border.
So was it
Um,
in a Gaza Strip or West Bank?
no, I was in Tel Aviv, but like all diplomatic missions at that point of time were stationed at Tel Aviv. But I used to go almost twice a week to Gaza, where Yasser Arafat's Palestinian Authority is headquartered. So I had a chance to deal with Palestinian Authority during that point of time. And it was a very kind of fascinating times because peace and understanding and a rudimentary two-state formation was in the offing. And Isaac Rabin and Shimon Peres were active to find a solution, and President Clinton was actively involved in those. I know many the American diplomats visiting almost every day there and trying to mediate the talks. It was quite a fascinating times, and it was unfortunate that all fizzled out. But that was a time that there was a high hope of Palestine achieving peace, and but it didn't go on.
But when you're saying about the Palestinian Authority, I we all know that in Gaza, the
Mm.
PA or Palestinian Authority was basically kicked out later on because Hamas took over. But during your tenure, during your time as a diplomat, so there was some presence of PA in Gaza Strip also. Is it so?
Yes, yes. Palestinian Authority was formed in Gaza, and as Arafat came, unfortunately, they could not sign all the detailed agreements, but none the same that they have established the Palestinian Authority and almost like an independent state in Palestinian Authority. And Yasser Arafat was in charge. And it was much later when, of course, Yasser Arafat's power was deteriorated and his health deteriorated. And then there was problems where Israel was attacking Gaza because of the Hamas activities. That was a time that Yasser Arafat could not reach to Gaza, and he had to stay back in Ramallah, where the authority was shifted
Ramallah
much
in West
later.
Bank.
Yeah,
Ramallah in West.
that was much later after I left.
So during the time when Israel started to attack or Hamas was mobilizing, were you still serving the post
Yes,
or
yes, yes. No, no. When Hamas was there, it was there when I was there actually. And I met, of course, some of the political ideologues of the Hamas, who are basically doctorates, philosophers, and kind of people, though who are involved basically in kind of community service. Since I was going to Gaza, I was visiting Yasser Arafat's office and his foreign relations office. So it
So you
was,
met Mr. Arafat also.
yes, yes, yes.
How
And that
many
was the
times?
time, yeah.
How many times? How many times you are encountered? I mean,
No, not many times, maybe 2, 3 times.
okay.
Yeah.
But those
So,
are all happened in Ramallah, not in Gaza.
no, 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 in Gaza. In
Oh,
Gaza.
in Gaza. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay, that
Ramallah
was
was much later,
oh,
after a couple of years.
so that could be in the year. Which year it would be?
It was 97, 1997.
And I can say 97 during the time Mr. Isaac Rabin was the premier of
Yeah,
Israel.
Isaac Rabin was there. Shimon Peres was foreign minister.
Oh, so I can say one thing that um, uh, they were basically Labour Party
It was Labour
uh,
Party
uh,
government. It was Labour Party
politicians. Am
government.
I right?
Correct,
So they
correct,
were
correct.
more, in a sense, quote unquote, more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause.
Absolutely, that
To
was
say it
the
bluntly.
most sympathetic government ever Israel had.
So the gradually the, as we say, the more hardened the Hamas became, or radical Islamists. Hamas is an Islamist party in a sense.
Yeah.
It's more of an Islamist than a nationalist party, as we now know. It has got
Yes.
international linkages. So
Yes.
as Hamas was more or less proliferating, I mean, or you say more or less expanding their political landscape.
Yeah.
So more and more Israelis were tilting towards right. And
Yes.
at the moment, I mean, personally, I mean, I don't see any future of the Labour Party. Do you see any future of left Labour Party in Israel, or the right wing Likud and its associates will continue?
I think Labour party is gone. I think there's hardly any remnants left of left there, and I don't think the there is any kind of Labour Party left in that country. Is more even when the height of the peace process, when Isaac Rabin and Shimon Peres were in control, there still used to be bomb attacks in the heart of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And Eric Weizmann was the president at that point of time,
Mhm.
who was very, very friendly to India because he served as a pilot during the Second World War in India from Bangalore. So
Mhm.
he was very eager to come to India actually that point of time. So he was also very liberal and labor oriented gentleman. And he was also very unhappy the way the peace process was going on at that time because Hamas was carrying out suicide bombings even during that
Yes,
time.
yes, yeah. We would say the same thing is happening in Europe also, because of the you can say expansion or dubious design of the radical Islamists in European continent. The
Yeah.
more and more right wing parties are coming to power or sharing power with the government. In
Yeah.
Europe, it's happening. And you already talked about bombing by the radical
Yes.
jihadis or so-called pro-Palestinian slash radical Islamists. So anyway, so when you are based in Israel or in a Palestinian territory in Israel, during the time, where was there any Palestinian embassy or mission in India?
Yes, yes. So the Palestinian mission was there for a long time, much before we recognized Israel and we had set up diplomatic relations.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think we had PLO mission to start with in Delhi, which was way back into 70s.
So
Um,
before even Bangladesh became independent.
yeah, maybe around that time. Yes, yes.
Okay. But Israel had a, some kind of a facility. I mean, I can say
Yes.
mission or office, as far as I know, even in
Yeah.
70s.
Yes, we have an Israeli economic office in Mumbai.
Yeah, yeah,
Bombay.
yeah.
Yes.
So even in the 70s also, early
Yes,
70s.
I think it may have started maybe early 80s around, not
So
70s,
India
early
maintained
80s.
relationship both Palestinians and Israelis diplomatically for
Yes,
long,
yes, yes,
dating
yes.
back to 70s also.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, um, yeah, let's come to the present time. We know that globally speaking, recently Bangladesh was conquered by the jihadis. You know that, and we know the global game by the globalists, Soros, as we say, or even Clinton's foundation, etc. In cahoot with Turkey, Qatar, etc. So basically, and
Hmm.
Turkey is Erdogan. We call it a new caliphate with a modern facade, basically, Mr. Erdogan. And
Yes.
Erdogan's agenda is basically to Islamize the Western world. Okay, but
Hmm.
not like the Taliban's, but in a different way. But basically, he's playing dubious game. He played a game in Bangladesh, but he tried to play game with India also. But I understand the Modi government is not naive. Modi government is very much proactive in this case. So recently, we know that India tried to, build up a coalition with the Greece, Cyprus. You know that probably. And
Yes.
recently, India and Israel had signed up some treaties. Probably it goes to technology transfer, even defense. Basically defense technology also, which included. So, in a sense, India definitely India is playing a role which is not detrimental to Israeli interest. On the other hand, India, as an independent country, doesn't want to be a puppet of any country, including US or Russia. So we
Yeah.
know during the tariff time, during the tariff war, when Trump wanted India to stop importing oil from Russia, India didn't listen to Trump's advice or Trump's instructions.
Yeah.
So now the question comes now uh, with Iran. We knew like maybe 6, 7 years ago there was a oil embargo. I think, and Trump said clearly that no deal with Iran. And you remember the Modi government
Yes.
imported Iranian oil, okay,
Yes. Yeah.
defying America's instruction, and America
Yes.
was not very happy.
Yeah.
And now uh, there are many Western countries openly talked about ayatollahs. Maybe that NATO or even Germany might have said recently. Germany's chancellor said that this war is not our war, but they are an anti regime. There is no doubt, Iranian regime. On the other hand, during the last year, during 12 days war last year, Iran, Israel, America versus Iran, we remember that Modi had telephonic conversation with President Pezeshkian of Iran last year. This
Hmm.
year, we know there are constant diplomatic, exchange going on between Iran and India. So India is apparently not hostile, and most recently, two Indian oil tankers passed through Hormuz. We know
Yes.
that, and Iran did not attack those tankers. Okay, so
Yes.
India
Yes.
definitely have a very sweet relationship with also Iran, uh, but this is the interesting part. How India is doing a very tricky balance between Israel and Iran, and with Israel, India has established a strategic relationship because we know, that India is facing hostility not from Pakistan but also from Turkey lately, and
Yes.
we heard that Israel had some facilities in Jammu Kashmir and some other projects. Can you highlight on those, like how Israel-India cooperation going on in different projects in India?
Yeah, okay. Let me just give a brief background of India is able to maintain relations with all sides of the dispute. See, we have foreign policy based on strategic autonomy. From the time that India had attained independence, we followed initially what's called non-aligned policy, which evolved into strategic autonomy, which basically both are same. See, we came out of occupation after several decades, several hundreds of years of occupation. So the development of the country was the primary focus. So we refused to be part of any of the world political groups, either USSR group or American aligned groups, because aligning with any one means that closing your options for 50% of other countries. So the best policy we thought for India's development was uh, active non-alignment. Means it's not neutral. We are not neutral. No, we are neither aligning with anybody. But whatever is good for India's growth, India's interests, that's the policy we have followed, which continues to be followed. So here in this case, there you're talking about Israel and Iran. So with Israel, you said you have strategic relations, security, defense, and economic relations. And equally, our relations with Iran goes much farther than Israel or any other West Asian country. So our relations with Iran goes maybe several centuries. Um, so if you there is a recent research reports that actually the Shia political, I mean Shia jurisprudence and Shia um, research works are basically funded by Indian leaders before it was much before British time. So the government of Awadh in current UP, the Sirajuddin Dawla, who was a Shia from Persia, and he was the one who had given a big check to award scholarships for Shia jurisprudence, Shia seminaries to develop. So we have long history of Iran-India relations that goes back to several centuries. And so is with Palestine. So with the Palestine, we have even the Nawab of Hyderabad had close relations, and many of the things that in Al-Aqsa Mosque had come from Nawab of Hyderabad. So we have the variety of relations with almost every country at that point of time. So, so we have followed this two-way path. With Israel, yes, security related and economic related, and with Iran, we have again the economic relations. So we have two couple of things. One is north-south route. So from Russia, Central Asia to Indian coast. This was one of the routes developed by India and Russia at that point of time through coming through Iran. And this was a lifeline for Afghanistan also currently because as its ports closed by Pakistan for its exports, Afghanistan is using this north-south route for exporting their products to the world. So similarly, we were developing
Are
uh,
you talking about that trade line through Chabahar port?
yes. So earlier it was Bandar Abbas, now it's coming to Chabahar. So we were developing the Chabahar port now. So the Chabahar port has a much larger hub of trade center, both for Central Asia and also Europe. So we have plans for various kinds of logistical routes. One is going through the Iran, and another is going through UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Greece through Israel. So we have different routes to develop our economic contact, economic access to Europe and countries beyond. So, in the context that, as I explained, this is part of our strategic autonomy policy. So, when US puts a sanctions, that disturbs all our calculations. So, sometimes it's possible to accept those sanctions, sometimes it's not possible. For example, when Iran was sanctioned and its Israel oil exports were sanctioned, India had to stop. There's no other choice because we had investments in Chabahar, which was given exception by the American government. In the first term of Trump administration, we were given exception to develop the Chabahar port because it was also serving the Afghan exports and imports. So it was a kind of multifaceted development-oriented policy, which generally all countries recognized, even Trump administration recognized. Uh, Now coming to Israeli projects in India, so we have very close cooperation in security and defense related industry. So we have a joint projects that came up in India. So the recent visit by Prime Minister to Israel was about talking about some of those projects. And so they were also involved from the very beginning in developing agriculture. So there are a lot of agriculture projects that have come up all over the country. So from Tamil Nadu, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Gujarat. So there were giant projects for developing agriculture with modern technology and better processing. This is a multifaceted kind of cooperation with that country. Simultaneously, of course, we have very mature economic relationship with Iran. So not just oil, but a lot of other things. So Iran, we provide Iran with you know, various oil products that we also export to Europe. So then there's agriculture products, there are food items that go to, then pharmaceuticals that Iran imports from India. So we maintain this relationship, which people might call dichotomy, but for us, it's a kind of, we don't have any enemy. We don't have to see anybody as an adversary, because whatever serves India, that's all, that is something that you have to follow through. So Russia is again lifeline. So Trump, US may have problems with Russia, and so we cannot totally just ignore and stop everything that we have been doing for several decades. So, like similarly, that America will not stop if we don't have good relations with some country. Suppose for us, we have adversarial relations with Pakistan, but US maintains very good Pakistan relations. So they won't stop because India doesn't like it. So for any country, so just because I don't like another country, you must stop your relations. That's not a pretty nice policy. So India that manages strategic autonomy, despite any pressures that are coming from any side. So we have good relations with Russia, we have good relations with America, we have good relations with Iran, we have good relations with other Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE. And you mentioned Turkey. So we had very good relations with Turkey some 20 years, 30 years ago, just before Edward and his predecessor party, Justice Party. So before this Islamist government started coming up in Turkey, Turkey was always supporting India and was voting for India in the Islamic organization, OIC meetings. Even Palestine Authority, Palestine PLO at the time, was supporting India. But when we started have problems with Pakistan, that was the time when the new Islamist government came up in Turkey, and they started voting favorable to Pakistan because of the Islamic Brotherhood. So That's when, of course, we have developed deep divisions with Turkey. But when Modi came to government in 2014, he made a sincere effort to mend relations with Turkey. And the relations with Turkey had gone up. The economic growth between the two countries have seen heights. But Erdogan, as you rightly said, that he clearly said that if it is between related to Pakistan, we'll go no question asked, we'll go for Pakistan, and started, of course, attacking India and Kashmir and other issues. So that's when we have our relations with Turkey got soured. But otherwise, our attempt was to build better relations with every country
And
around the
I
world.
understand, but it's a very delicate balancing act. I mean, I'm just talking about, for example, if you have a relationship with Russia and America, that's one story. But Iran and Israel is a totally different story because Iran, after 79 revolution from the get-go, its mission was to wipe out Israel from the
Yes.
world maps, basically, and the hostile attitude, and also the big side and small side, and also they were chanting that young students from the very elementary level, they were taught to hate Jews, Israel, and America. So this is one thing. And important thing is that at the moment there's humanitarian crisis, and obviously we know that very well that Iran is ruled by Islamic zealots. They are a Shiite variety, Islamic fascists. So India was victim by the Islamic fascists, may it Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and many of the jihadis were exported from Pakistan. And Pakistan, we know that Sunni jihadi making factory. And Pakistan is exporter of Sunni jihadi terrorism all over the world. That even Taliban, Al Qaeda, collusion was developed by Pakistani ISI. So now the question can come that when Iranian secular people are fighting for their rights against a Shiite hypocrisy, what the modernist or secular world should do. And many of us are hopeful that Iranians will prevail. And India, as I said, is definitely. And I can also tell you the future. I mean, I'm pretty optimistic. Hypothetically speaking, Pahlavi becomes a new leader of Iran tomorrow, after the downfall of the bloodthirsty Ayatollah regime. If Reza Pahlavi becomes the new leader, India will be one of the first countries to embrace. Pakistan also, you know that.
Yes.
I mean, I know that because Pahlavi will not create any threat. But we have to know one thing, as I told you clearly, that the balancing act is really a very sensitive, and India succeeded creating a relationship with both Israel and India at the same level. Remember, Israel considers Iran as the head of the octopus. Like, for example, look into all the hostility around Israel, empowering Houthis in Yemen, during the Bashar al-Assad time in Syria, all the militants in Iraq, the Shiite militants, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Israel. So they are all financed and empowered by Iran. Israel knew it. And we all also know that Israel, that's why Israel might have planted lots of Mossad agents in Iran, because Israel knew it's do or die, because it is a question of existence. It was not Iran which was thinking about its existence during the last 40 years. It was Israel which was thinking, because Israel knew if Iran had the nuclear power, weapons, it will destroy Israel in a minute, because they said that we want to wipe out Israel's map from the world. So you have to understand, it's a very delicate situation.
Yes.
Excuse me. So what is your take on that?
Okay, I have to give a little background to the situation. You remember when 1979, when the Islamic Revolution started with Ayatollah Khomeini came to Iran, leading the mass movement. So that was the time. What was the background of that Islamic revolution? So you had that Sunni Shia, the divide. So now the Shias have a state. First time in 1979, they had their own state. So that's what this Shiites, headed by the Iranian regime, Ayatollah Khomeini, they wanted to create an Islamist world in the form of a Shiite ideology. So there was a competition between Saudi Arabia, which is the custodian of Makkah and Medina, and they were the head of the Islamic world. So that was challenged by Iran. So so that was a challenge when both countries started funding various Islamic groups around the world, both Saudi Arabia and Iran. So if you remember, that was the time when all the Arab countries grouped together, tried to destroy the Shiite regime, the Iran-Iraq war, which lasted for 8 years. So that was not when Iranian regime was exporting terrorism. That was not the time when Iran supported Palestinian organizations, or did they have Hezbollah, Hamas, or Houthis, or anybody. They didn't have any such kind of thing. They were started basically ideological export. So the Arab countries, Gulf countries, they all funded Saddam Hussein to launch this attack and wipe out the Shiite regime. The Shiite regime, of course, survived, and we know the history. So that's when the Shiite regime started. They didn't have any interest in Hamas at that point of time. In the early 80s, if you remember, they had no contacts with Hamas. Hamas, of course, was not born it much later, but other organizations that were all there, they didn't have any kind of interest in Palestinian issue at all, nor Israel at that point of time. The Iranian regime of that time was only export the Shiite kind of ideology around the world and claim leadership to the Islamic world. That was the ideology that started the Khomeini regime. So when the Arab countries tried to destroy the launched 8 long years of war, that's when Iranians radicalized. That's when they went up and set up Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they tried to contact all Sunni groups also to fund Sunni groups against their own governments. So this is how the Iranian regime was radicalized. And of course, then when all Arab countries were ignoring the Palestinian issue after the failure of the Labour government experiment, so Saudi Arabia, UAE, they all have lost interest in Palestinians. That's when, of course, Iranians went deep into that subject and supported Hamas, and then the radical ideology started. So it evolved. The Iranian radicalism and export of extremist ideology started over a period of time. So now you're right that Iran ideology is to wipe out Israel. But here I see from what my experience, my talks with various people, either in Palestine or in Iran, I've been to Iran several times. So was that it was not a situation that is dire, that is life and death question, that there are people wise enough to compromise and to come to terms. But the situation was not right. The people were not statesman-like to go on that path. So everybody has chosen that kind of thing. So you have to wipe out the other side. So this is where the problem is going on. So yeah, Iranian regime has taken an extreme form which is denounceable, and they were taking so much of harsh treatment to their own people, innocent people, the women, girls. So this is an abhorrent activity. But what they say is that the regime's survival is the topmost priority than anything else, even human life, which was something very unpalatable to civilized life.
And
But
also, you know, that one thing, that it's not only a totalitarian regime, it's a theocracy. And we know, we saw the downfall of, like Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, or even Bashar al-Assad. So basically, in a secular or pseudo-secular nationalist dictatorship, if the top brass falls, everything comes like dominoes effect, like a house of cards. But
yes,
what I see that in Islamic theory, it could be Taliban's in Afghanistan, or Ayatollahs in Iran. They have layers of mullahs, and a very, because, as we always say, when God or Allah is amalgamated into politics, is very difficult to uproot. And I gave examples of the downfall of the Soviet Empire, like when Gorbachev single-handedly, basically collapsed the whole Soviet Union, without much bloodshed. You understand? Communism
yes,
in
yeah,
many of the European, East European countries, like, excepting, you can say, Romania. But if you say Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, the communism collapsed. But in a
yes,
theocracy, it's difficult. Probably it's very difficult when Allah is involved. Maybe.
yes,
What's your
yes.
comment?
Yeah, so I have it in, I generally compare both communism and theocracy. Like communism also, no, it spreads into tentacles into every department, civilian, small, big, and kind of things. Everything is controlled by the party. Similarly, in theocracy here, like a government like Iran, everything is controlled. This is the parallel organizations in Iran. One is the regular army, and then another is IRGC. IRGC is the what do you call? They came into existence to in the name of protecting the regime, and there's a regular army which is, of course, the defender of the country, and then you have regular police, and you have a Basis kind of organizations which are more of religious police who are there to implement the religious policies and practices on the people. So this theocracy has created almost its presence in every organization, whether it's economic or security or political. So you have somebody into every part of it. So the kind of the kingship, the kingship is called godship. So you use the Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, is created in such a way that he is the God's representative in the country. So that makes that everybody in the country give allegiance to him and will not go against God's word. That's when theocracy and the religions and Allah, the God, is brought into the equation. Then it becomes very difficult for the people to question it. So, but that's how the theocracies create their world and make it difficult to resist for those who are resisting the government, because large masses of the government were brainwashed to believe that is Allah's word or the God's word, and anybody going against it is a radical to be crushed. So the Iranian regime created such a situation, and now it's not one man which is on the top, so that he can be replaced. There are organizations who will work and replace that person. So here the organization, the whole structure of the organization, which is important. Individuals are not important here. So the regime, which is considered a structural entity, that is to be protected. So you have all the organizations created for that purpose, like IRGC, buses, and all kinds of things. So here it's very difficult to change the regime like it was done in other countries, like you mentioned, Saddam Hussein, Iran, or Gaddafi in Libya. So it's not so simple in this country to happen like that. So you have to literally wipe out the whole clerical structure in order to be able to build a new administration there, which is both the US and Israel are finding it very difficult. So Israel is going cave by cave, hiding place to hiding place to find each person and kill them. But the Israeli experiment somehow, I don't know whether they will succeed, but they have not succeeded so far in other areas, like Hamas. They had the full control of Gaza Strip, where Hamas was there hiding in the caves below. They were not able to find them. They were not able to find their hostages. It took several years, but still nothing happened. So similarly in Hezbollah, they killed the Hezbollah leaders several times, not now. Since 1991, they were killing the Hezbollah leaders, but Hezbollah is still there. Last year, they had almost wiped out Hezbollah, but it's still functioning. They're still firing missiles on northern Israel. So Israel's strategy, current strategy, so it has, I see it's
No, but in this case, sorry to interrupt, only thing I can tell you that one of the reasons could be the financing. Definitely. Hezbollah and you know that Hamas sustained and survived because of the continuous inflow of money,
yes.
if you cut the, that supply line, maybe it would be easier to contain. And I agree with that, but Israel is doing now ground offensive in Lebanon, and it would be hopefully successful. In Iran and Hamas case, two different scenarios. In Hamas case, Israel had no choice but to do carpet bombing, and obviously the civilians became the collateral damage. And you know that very well, that Hamas was hiding behind the children and behind in the hospital and other civilian areas, and Israel bombed rampantly. Okay, and
Yes.
irrespective of the location of the Hamas. But in Iran, Israel is doing very delicately moving, because even pointing in the buses, what I call checkpoints on the streets. You saw a few cars of the buses or motorcycle that the drones are attacking, trying to avoid the civilians. You see the two scenarios,
Yeah.
but in a sense, in Iran it is more difficult because you are trying to be more surgical, it's more in a sense. But on the other hand, if you start to kill Iranian civilians,
Yes.
like you did in Gaza, Israeli, I'm
Yeah.
talking about Israelis, then
Yes.
very soon most Iranians might be against Israel.
Of course, yes,
Very
yes.
soon.
It's a dual policy. So here, Israel in Gaza, they want to wipe out Hamas and Palestinians too, if
Yeah,
possible. But in
yeah,
Iran, the policy is to have a new friendly government rather than wiping out the population. So,
correct. Yeah,
so
very good.
Israel cannot bomb the civilians there.
Very good. Mr. Nalapati, we are almost near the end of our discussion. And because right now Iran war is the main issue, so globally, so we touched upon Iran, for a long time. Now let's touch a little bit of India's neighboring country, Bangladesh. In 2024, the global jihadis, I would say, global jihadis, along with globalists like Soros and Clinton Foundation, US aid, $29 million from USA, and they're all funneled. And even Turkey and Qatar's involvement, they successfully engineered this color revolution and toppled a government, which is a basically not ideal one, but which was partly a little bit of authoritarian. That's true, but which was not really totally a bad government, because we knew during the time of Hasina, Sheikh Hasina, the people were not going down the poverty lane. Okay, now the obviously regime change happened, and what we saw that Mr. Okay, I want to give one example, like how global jihadis were involved. You know that one name, Omar Suleiman is a Palestinian American. He's a preacher,
Hmm.
and he never spoke a single word supporting Iranian people's movement.
Hmm.
So, but but he was a very, very, very active in the field when Bangladesh July jihadi revolution was going on. In his Facebook pages, he was talking against a tyrannical Hasina. He was wishing an ouster of Hasina and crying, praying, all this. You understand? So you see the connection. And another guy name is Muhammad Hijab, in a preacher in UK. He's a hardcore radical Islamist. And
Yeah.
on YouTube, he said, "Oh no, Hasina should be gone." All this, they were crying. Okay, in Bangladesh, I would quote one guy. He's a local reporter of Al Jazeera. In his Facebook page, he posted a narrative by Sarjis Alam. Sarjis Alam is one of the leaders in the student movement. That
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
local Quota movement.
Yeah.
So Sarjis Alam actually asked the army rank and file to revolt against officers. You understand?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Who posted that? Al Jazeera reporter based in Dhaka. So you can connect the dots. The jihadi globally, the radical Islamists were
Yeah.
for the downfall of Sheikh Hasina. Now Hasina obviously fell, the government fell, and what we saw, Mr. Yunus, one time we thought Nobel laureate would be secular, but he basically brought all the jihadis from underground.
Yeah.
Hizbut Tahrir, and even some jailed like Ansarullah Bangla team. America
Yes.
considers is a devilish terrorist group.
Yes.
He basically released those leaders of Ansarullah Bangla team, and we know that Yunus is nothing but a Taliban leader in a modern outfit. Anyway, so now India was very upset apparently, and some of the secular Bangladeshis were saying why India was not intervening and all this. No, why India is not attacking Bangladesh and all this. But India was kept quiet. Basically, India kept quiet, and suddenly this Tariq Rahman came, and we can clearly see that Jai Shankar met Tariq before he became the prime minister, and apparently we knew that India is probably showing sympathy to the new government, the BNP government. So, what
Yeah.
is your take on it, basically? But the current status of Bangladesh-India relationship and Tariq Rahman and India, issue.
Yeah. There's no secret about India's close relations with Awami League and Sheikh Hasina. Um, but unfortunately, the things happened during the student agitation, um, and so the point that, of course, many people ask me, so why India is keeping quiet? So you see, India is not in the business of involving in terms of changing regimes and other things in any country. So you have to do business with whatever dispensation that has come in the country. So the Yunus government was something was imposed from externally. So that was a period, of course, where he wanted to sustain and continue for a long time, but fortunately, there was pressure for him to conduct the elections and move on. And the days have the BNP has also modified, has also changed over time. So earlier days, Begum Khalida Zia was there. She was actually totally not independent. She was controlled to an extent from Pakistan. So Pakistan had a field day and were able to use Bangladesh territory to pump in money, arms to Indian insurgent groups and other Islamist groups. particularly since Jamaat-e-Islami was also part of the BNP government earlier. It was easy for Pakistan to reach out through the Jamaat-e-Islami. So currently now the people uh, see the maturity of the democracies in Bangladesh. Despite uh, the antipathy towards Awami League was removed, and Jamaat-e-Islami was making deep inroads, and they had both purse and support of masses. They could not win the election. So it was again the secular party, BNP, under the leadership of Tariq Rahman, who was brought into the power. So this is a sign of maturity of a democracy. So now, so you have to judge Tariq Rahman from his actions. So how is going about? So is he following totally the Yunus-led policies? No. The constitutional referendum that they have put into structural reforms, Tariq Rahman was holding it. So he's not going ahead, he's not rushing into those reforms, despite the fact that the referendum was approved during the election time. So he was holding that. And secondly, he was aware that during this last 2, 3 years, the Bangladesh economy is doing badly. So the textile mills, which are the lifeline of Bangladesh economy, were in poor condition. So his priority is economic development, not so much of the ideological issues. And he's not an ideological man, he's not a religious man. So his long years, both under the BNP earlier in Bangladesh and his stay in London, has proven that he is not that, he doesn't have that kind of radical ideologies. He is more a pragmatist businessman who wants to make profits. That's it. So now, as a leader of the political party and leader of the government, so he inherits a different kind of task, and that is for him. He has to improve the economy. He has to improve the quality of life of the people. That's all his priorities. So he has to be pragmatic, and he has to build relations with neighbors. So India, China, US, and every country, that he cannot have relations with one country and shun the other, like Yunus government tried to do. So, so he is building up a relationship with India as well as China, and he's doing what all US wanted him to do in terms of honoring all the agreements that were made during the Yunus government. So, so his priorities are clear. He was pragmatist. So I think probably yeah, when he get confident, he gets complete control over the government and the power structure. So probably at that point of time, he may even allow lifting the ban on Awami League and allow Awami politics again, maybe later. Maybe he may not allow Sheikh Hasina to return, but the in due course, maybe may not be in 1 year, 2 years, maybe a little later. So he might be more pragmatic to allow the other political parties to function. So once he is comfortable and confident of his power. So I think you have to give him chance, give him time to build his country's economy and development, and India has to extend its support. So you have a very difficult situation now with oil is not coming. So there are shortages of oil, diesel, petrol, and all kinds of things. And of course, India is providing as much as it could while taking care of its own domestic requirements. So I think it's a difficult period for Bangladesh, and let's hope that there will be better days and there will be better relations all over. And so once he is strong and confident, so he will he will come back to his own and able to ward off pressures from the external forces and focus on totally what is of interest for Bangladesh. I think Probably, so far he's doing well, I suppose.
Mr. Nalapati, my question would be, I just during before I sum up, whatever you said, is it? I mean, should I say it's not only your opinion, but your friends in the Ministry of External Affairs, also espouse the same view, or I mean, or it's your own personal view, whatever you were talking about.
It's my personal view. I have no touch with any official departments. No, I'm not part of government anymore. It's about 10 years that I'm away from the government. It's purely, now purely more of a think tanker, my own research organization. So whatever I do of an independent, so I have no contact with the Ministry of External Affairs, neither I get any funding from anybody. So it's purely my personal funding, and so it's purely my own views based on my previous experiences and the research that we do into the current developments. So it has nothing to do with the official version. So
That's
probably
still
you must see.
it's extraordinary. And I mean, when you were speaking, I felt like Indian government was talking. I mean, you talked with such authenticity. That was great, and it was nice talking to you, Mr. Prasad Nalapati. And
So it's my pleasure.
so we'll talk again, because our talk hasn't finished yet. So world is basically, and you'll be leaving very soon. At the moment, you are visiting USA. Am I right?
Yes, I'll be here for just this month, and next month I'll be back home.
So if anybody wants to talk to you, can reach you. I mean, but you'll be leaving middle of next month.
Yeah, yeah. So not necessary to be here, yeah, but I can be reached even in India. So
Yes, right, right. You're not
the
been on
so
planet Mars. I understand.
world is one village now.
Yes, that's true. So thank you, Mr. Nalapati. It was nice, basically speaking at this hour.
Thank you, Jamal. It's very nice to be talking to you, and it's a pleasure to be on your TV. And well, we'll keep in touch, and we'll talk more, both
Take care.
formally and informally. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye.